Good morning, brothers. The last session, we dedicated it to the works of Goethe, okay? And we spoke about 3 pillars, of which we expanded only on 2. One being the source of young Werther, the other one, his Faust. What is the 3rd pillar of the work of Johann Wolfgang von Goethe? His poetry. Yes, his poetry. And there's a lot of poetry. There's a lot of poetry written by Goethe, and it's known widely in the German-speaking world, but out of that realm, there's not much emphasis in the poetry of Goethe. Nevertheless, I wanted to share with you the Earl King. The Earl. Do you know what the Earl King is? Think of elves, think of dwarfs, think of fairies, think of some kind of mythological creature that lives in the forests. And this is the king of the earls. This is the king of the elves. And of course, this is a translation, but it's a good translation. It's a beautiful translation. And I hope you will enjoy it. What is the content of this poem? There's a father with his son who's riding, actually, yes?
Is the one that the son dies?
There. There's a father carrying his son, and they are galloping. They are not only riding the horse, but they are galloping. And while they gallop, the son starts seeing and hearing things. He starts seeing the Earl King, and the father says to him, "Don't worry, it's just them. It's just the mist." He hears, and he says, "Don't worry, it's just the rustle." He hears the Earl King speaking to him, and he says, "Don't worry, it's just the rustle of the wind." He sees the daughters of the Earl King coming to play with him, and the father says to him, "Don't worry, those are just trees," and so on. So this poem represents the father who is taking his son to the doctor because the son is seriously ill. And I let you with a poem, so you can listen to it. Who rides there so late through the night dark and drear? The father it is, with his infant so dear. He holdeth the boy tightly clasped in his arms. He holdeth him safely to keep him warm. My son, wherefore seek'st thou thy face thus to hide? Look, father, the Earl King is close by our side. Dost see not the Earl King with his crown and with train? My son, 'tis the mist rising over the plain. O come, thou dear infant, O come thou with me. Full many a game I will play there with thee. On my strand lovely flowers they blossomed unfold. My mother shall grace thee with garments of gold. My father, and dost thou not hear the words that the Earl King now breathed in my ear? Be calm, dearest child, 'tis thy fancy deceives. 'Tis the sad wind that sighs through the withering leaves. Wilt go then, dear infant, wilt go with me there? My daughters shall tend thee with sisterly care. My daughters by night their glad festival keep. They'll dance thee and rock thee and sing thee to sleep. My father, and dost thou not see how the Earl King's daughters has brought here for me? My darling, I see it aright. 'Tis the aged grey willows deceiving thy sight. I love thee, I'm charmed by thy beauty, dear boy, and if thou art unwilling, then force I'll employ. My father, he seizes me fast. Full sorely the Earl King has hurt me at last. The father now gallops with terror half wild. He grasps in his arms the poor shuddering child. He reaches the courtyard with toil and with dread. The child in his arms finds him motionless and dead. It's a very powerful poem, and I hope you enjoyed it. And it raises many questions. It raises many questions. The first question is, what is truth? The first narrative, and maybe the most upfront way to approach this poem, is the child is feverish, he's delirious, the father is taking him to the doctor, and the child is just speaking about the ravings he sees. So that would be a first approach to the poem, which fits well, and I think that it's beautifully told. Nevertheless, what if the child is right? What if the child is right and there's the Earl King and the daughters of the Earl King, and the Earl King is talking to him and the father doesn't see or doesn't want to see? That's another approach. Or what if they are both right? Do you see it? What if they are both right? They are both different angles. They are just different perspectives on the same reality. And we might see this as different perspectives upon the same reality, one of a child and the other one of an adult. One of them enlightened man who leads himself by reason, the other one who leads himself by fancy and by emotion. But those are just two angles to approach human life, right? So it can speak to us about two different ways, two different approaches to life. But, and this is not the last approach, but let me just finish with this final one. What if these are two approaches within the same person? One is our conscious approach and the other one is the subconscious approach. One is the approach of reason and logic, the other one is the approach of that creative side within us, the approach of our dreams and our fantasy. So are in those two approaches different angles that enable us to grasp reality? Okay, thank you very much.